SureFire Ag was started in the summer of 2007. There were 3 original partners, all from Atwood. And a couple of us had been working for another business locally, myself and Blaine Ginther. Through that experience, we had began to see the opportunity for what became our product line, and we'll talk more about that, but that being fertilizer application solutions for farmers, both in the immediate local area, but also across the country. We teamed up with my older brother, Josh Wolters, who was an engineer, had spent 10 years in combine design, and had an interest of getting back to home for him. And the 3 of us came together, and in that August 1 of 2007, we launched SureFire Ag Systems. What our business focuses on is putting together a package of components to apply fertilizer on board existing equipment. So for a farmer, that is a wheat drill, a corn planter, or really any piece of farm equipment that they want to apply a liquid product with. And then as the business has grown, that's taken us to areas of the country where they grow a lot of crops that are very foreign to us in the high plains. We do a lot of work in potatoes and onions in the areas where those are produced. And then in a whole host of various, what we would term specialty crops, fresh fruits and vegetables, where they're growing those, certainly for some fresh market scenarios, but in a lot of cases it's green beans for canning or tomatoes for processing, or all those vegetable crops that are grown and then processed for what we buy in the grocery store. So we developed a line of products that would allow farmers from anywhere in the country, virtually on any crop that is grown, to apply fertilizer. And this was an area that hadn't had a lot of specific focus given to it by an organization that specialized in helping people accomplish those needs. Traditionally, it was a lot of folks that were using their own experience and going to various parts stores and suppliers to bring those components together themselves. And in some cases they were successful, and in some cases they were less than successful and had to make modifications and go through the learning curve all on their own in an individual scenario. And so what we were able to do and continue to do as our business grows and expands every year is take our collective experience and understand a given scenario that a producer has, apply that experience, and then deliver the package of goods that is going to solve their scenario successfully on the first attempt, so that they can concentrate on being able to plant timely, being able to apply the fertilizer or other crop input products the way they want to, when they want to, and don't have to go through this long learning curve on their own. No, actually not. From a college training perspective, Blaine graduated from Kentucky Wesleyan University with a degree in criminal justice, and I'm a K-Stater. I've got a degree in ag economics. So from a college training perspective, not technical programs by any stretch. One of the primary things that creates an opportunity for us that isn't realized by the major manufacturers is that the way that producers want to apply these fertilizers and other liquid inputs at the farm level is highly variable. It's certainly variable across major geographies and crops. You don't put the same thing on potatoes that you do on corn or wheat. But even with a much smaller geographic area, 2 farmers next door to each other that are raising the same crops may very well be using different products at different rates, and they're managing their fertility in that case very differently. And so virtually everything that we produce starts with a conversation at the farm level about what it is that they want to accomplish on their farm. So we collect that customer expectation or scenario, and then we apply our experience and our knowledge as an organization to it and configure a system specifically recommended for the scenario that they provided us. That scenario, the major factors that are involved are, first of all, the type of equipment they're using. Is it a weed drill? Is it a corn planter? And then more specifically, what model is it? You know, who made it? What model? So the type of equipment, the application rates that they'll be applying, it could be anywhere from 32 ounces per acre all the way up to 50 or 60 gallons per acre. The type of product that they'll be applying, all fertilizer is not created equal in terms of how you handle it and how you have to, the considerations that you have to take in order to pump it, move it, meter it in an effective manner. And then lastly, gets to the question that you started with relative to technology and electronics, and that's the piece we call technology integration. Progressive Modern Farms have over the last 15 years adopted a computer platform in the tractor that started with the ability to guide and then automatically steer the tractor, and the manufacturers of those technology platforms have built in the capability to control and manage other functions, one of those being liquid application. And so the last piece of that customer scenario is integrating the electronics so that they can control this liquid product application with the existing electronics they have in the cab. So those are the variables. So we tailor every system specifically to the customer need. We produce it on an as-needed basis, and the major manufacturers, that's not their business model. Their business model is set up to manufacture high volumes of very similar products with few options between models. We're set up and we've built a system that allows us to capture that customer by customer need and then ultimately meet it. And that's really the opportunity that we capitalize in the marketplace. We've been incredibly fortunate. Today, March 25th, our total employment's right around 40 people. So you're exactly correct. We started with 3, and we've, over the first 6.5 years we've been in business, we've had tremendous growth. Part of that is due to the fact that the last 6 years, really the previous 5 years, have been 5 of the most profitable at the farm level in the last 100 years of modern American agriculture. And so the old adage that sometimes it's better to be lucky than good certainly applies to a portion of our success in terms of the timing was right when we started the business. And then coupled with that, the market from a fertility management perspective, there's been lots of advancements in the type of fertilizer products that are available to farmers. And so with those advancements in technology, there's more adoption of applying these varying types of fertilizer at different times in the production cycle of whatever the crop may be. And so all of that says there's a bigger demand for farmers wanting to apply liquids than there was, even 10 years ago, but certainly 20 or 30 years ago. We design everything here, and over the last 3 years we began an initiative to develop our engineering group. as we talked about, Josh, one of the original partners, was an engineer, and at the onset, he did more, did all of our actual engineering work. As the organization grew, he's moved into our general management role, and so he spends zero time from an actual, engineering perspective. He still has his hand in product development and driving expectations and functional specifications of new products, but in terms of getting your hands dirty doing work, he just doesn't have enough time in the day. So 2 years ago, well, coming up on 3 this month actually, 3 years ago, we hired our first electrical engineer, which was not a strategic initiative of the time. There was a gentleman that had moved back to Atwood. He was originally from Hoxie. His wife's from Atwood, and he had been in Kansas City for, actually right at close to 15 years after finishing up at K-State. And was at that point where they had 2 boys that were just pre-grade school aged and wanted to move back to the small towns where they were raised in order to raise their family, and had moved back to Northwest Kansas for a different opportunity. And unfortunately, 6 months after their move, that opportunity went away, which was very unfortunate for him and his family for a period as they were trying to figure out what they were going to do. Well, we were starting to look for another engineer at that point in time, and as things worked out, we ended up hiring Albert. And that event has taken SureFire down a product development route that was never on our strategic radar. Well, it'll be a year and a half ago, we hired our second electrical engineer, and today we have 2 mechanical engineers and a mechanical drafter. So we have 5 pieces of core human talent in our engineering group that's really driving our strategic product development for future years. So we have, at the onset of SureFire and in the first 3 years, from a technology perspective, we were interfacing with partner vendors for the actual technology components that we needed. So we would buy off-the-shelf components from them, or when we wanted something to solve a particular scenario, we would work with them in order to make requests and then work with their engineering department in order to develop whatever it was we were working on at the time. Well, bringing that specifically the electrical and computer engineering talent in-house has allowed us now to develop that technology ourselves. So our electrical and our computer engineers are designing their own circuit boards. So when we want to work on new products, we own the technology. It's all of our drawings, all of the software, all of the IP is ours, versus working through a third party in order to do that. So it's changed our place in the market to have that ability to develop technology in-house, and we're working on products that we are just in the process of releasing. We've had 2 minor releases prior to the first of the year over the last year and a half. The first major project was released the first of the year, and that is a system that we call the Quick Draw Automated Spray Tender. And what the Quick Draw does is it automates the process of mixing a chemical batch to go into the field sprayer. So we start by creating a recipe of the various chemicals that will be loaded into the batch. So we think about that recipe no different than a cooking recipe for a batch of cookies. It can be used multiple times and applied to the scenario when we're actually going to mix it. So then when we get to the field, we are going to specify in the controller that says, I want to load so many gallons in this sprayer, and I want to utilize this recipe, and I'm also going to tell it what farm and field I'm loading for. I can enter in some environmental information, temperature and wind speed and direction are very important when you're going to spray. Actually, anybody spraying is required by law to keep that record. So if there's ever a problem on the backside, we know exactly what the conditions were at the time the application was made. And then once we've set up that job, then I'm going to hit the start button, and it's going to automatically measure the correct amount of each chemical for the size of batch that I am loading, and it's going to keep a record of every amount that was loaded with that information that we talked about, and it creates a unique batch ID number that is unique for that batch. And after the fact, we can, they've designed it to work in conjunction with an iPad app that allows us to extract that historical data, email that back to the office, email it to customers, landlords, whoever it is that I may need to communicate that information about what was applied, and then ultimately have it for my records, or for the producer's records, so that they know exactly what was loaded and then applied for that batch. So it's our first big product release in kind of the second generation of SureFire, moving from what we initially established the business on, which is still the bread and butter of what we do, but beginning that transition to what you need to be to continue to be effective and sustainable in the future. The concept of open book management is something that we were very fortunate in, that we were aware of this management system before we started the company. Josh had been exposed to it from an organization that really pioneered it in the 1980s in Springfield, Missouri. And they were an engineering remanufacturing facility that was part of International Harvester in the early 1980s. The International Harvester was imploding. They had about 115,000 employees worldwide. They were shedding 2,000 employees a week, and they did that for just over 50 weeks until the whole company was gone. All the various components were sold off. At this particular facility, where they were remanning heavy truck engines and then agricultural and industrial engines, a group of 13 employees led by one particular individual by the name of Jack Stack recognized that it was only a matter of time before they were, part of the 2,000 employee per week shed, and managed to put together enough capital and financing to buy the factory. Their debt to equity position was 83-1, and as the leader of that, Jack Stack established that they would only be able to get themselves out of this absolutely audacious position they were in if they were all on the same page. And so he started, whether you were sweeping the floor or whether you were, the general manager, everybody was expected to know and understand from a financial perspective where the business was, because in that scenario they had to maintain cash so that they would be effective. You fast forward 30 years, and Springfield Holdings Corp has started over 60 businesses. I think today they own 30 some of those, and so Josh was exposed to that, and so we adopted the concept of open book management at SureFire, and what that means for us is that we want every member of the organization, regardless of whether you're the general manager or whether you're part of our seasonal crew that comes in from November through May, through the busiest season of our delivery, we want you to know and understand exactly what makes the business successful from a financial perspective. There's other things that contribute to success, but if the business isn't healthy and successful from a financial perspective, it's tough to be successful in any other regard of business. So on Monday morning at 9:20, every member of that team, we have about a 15 to 20 minute meeting where we review the company income statement for the month, and we go through it line line item by line item, and we capture all those numbers on a whiteboard on our conference room, and everybody in the organization is responsible for looking at the printed out balance statement, identifying the number that we're on. We transfer it to the board. And then none of the math in terms of adding up expenses, adding up revenue, calculating profit margins, none of that is done on the materials that are provided. So it's the responsibility of the employees at the meeting in order to calculate those, and it's a teaching and an engaging method to give everybody the opportunity to know exactly where the business is from a financial perspective, and ultimately know and understand what line items on that financial statement they have the ability to impact. You know, everybody has the ability to impact it in a different way. You know, the sales crew impacts it in one way. You know, packaging and warehousing and all of those things impact it in another way. But everybody impacts that financial statement from some regard and from some angle. You know, there's no doubt that you know, if you add 30 jobs to a community of 1,200-1,300, that's significant. And in Atwood, we're very fortunate because it's not just our organization that has experienced growth over the last 10 years, but we really have 5 or 6 employers in Atwood that, if I add them all up, I think they've got to be employing probably 150-ish people, and those businesses are deriving the majority of their revenue from outside of Rawlins County. And so, you know, when we start talking about an economic engine and how that's fed, dollars that come into an economy from outside of it are true growth dollars. And then once we bring them in, then we can roll them around at our local businesses that are in the business of providing local services, your grocery stores, your hardware stores, your appliance stores, all of those sort of things, and that allows us to have more local services, more of those types of businesses that make the community a place that folks want to live and they can have their needs met. For us, community and our involvement in the community is it's a founding principle of the organization. If you go back well, if you look at our mission statement, one of the things that is in our mission statement is to be an economic engine in Rawlins County. You go back to our original business plan, that statement, you'll find that in there as well. And so obviously we talked about the economic development, you know, in terms of revenue coming in. That's the surface level piece of that, the instant gratification, instant measurement. But there's a bigger piece to economic development and community development than just dollars coming in. And for us, the opportunity to establish the Dream Big Foundation, to provide resources to increase opportunities in science, technology, engineering, agricultural, and math in the Rawlins County School District is an opportunity that we have to invest for not next year or the year after, but in kind of a long-term impact within our community. So via that route this year, we were able to provide funding to the school to implement smartboard technology in all of the grade school classrooms, which is an absolutely amazing tool for student engagement, especially in those elementary grades. We were able to upgrade the infrastructure backbone at the high school. And then the last project, in conjunction with some other grant dollars that were acquired through a Monsanto program, put in a couple of iPad carts that are 30 or 40 iPads that teachers can utilize to integrate that technology into the classroom. And then the last piece of it is more on the agriculture side. Agriculture is so much broader and more diverse than what we see from a Northwest Kansas only perspective. And so we wanted to provide some opportunity to take students at the high school level that are involved in our local agricultural education program and expose them to the broad and diverse industry that we serve across the country. So actually just over their spring break, we took two students, a senior and a junior, and the high school ag teacher, and we went on a 6-day tour of Oregon, Idaho, and Washington, and saw everything from mint oil production and distillation. So anytime you eat anything that has mint flavoring in it, that's a fascinating process. Potatoes going in the ground, onions growing in the ground, hops. And so we just had an opportunity to expose them to the concept that agriculture is much larger and diverse than high plains wheat, cattle, and corn. In order for our business to do what we do from rural Northwest Kansas and serve customers throughout the country and to a certain extent the world, having the technology infrastructure backbone that allows us to communicate and serve those customers is absolutely critical. We couldn't do it if we didn't have that. So yeah, we utilize Nex-Tech internet and phone service. The internet service allows us to, certainly communicate with our customers via email and all of those sort of things. But it's much more significant on the backbone side than just that. We run our servers internally that we're accessing whenever for our territory salespeople. They're coming back in through our servers to access our business system and our backbone. Anytime myself or Blaine or any of us are on the road, we're constantly able to execute the function of our jobs from anywhere in the world because we've got that ability to come back into our backbone here and access the tools that we need to execute our job. We certainly are focused on continued growth. That growth is going to transition a little bit. Our growth within SureFire Ag will come from our new product development initiatives that we talked about with our engineering group and bringing some new technology to the market. In addition to continued growth within the original company of SureFire Ag, we also have two other initiatives that we're working on. The first one is a business called SureFire Electronics, which will turn 2 this summer in the summer of 2014. And that organization is focused on manufacturing of wiring harnesses. So at SureFire, we use a significant number of harnesses that connect the products that we sell, our pumps, our flow meters, our valves, back to that control interface that we talked about. And 2 years ago, prior to that, we were using an outside supplier to purchase and manufacture those harnesses for us. And we were having a quality issue, and so we started looking at how can we solve that problem. One of those opportunities was to invest in the technology and do it ourselves. The second initiative that we are involved with is a company called First Water Ag. And SureFire Ag is the majority shareholder. It's not a fully owned subsidiary. We're the majority shareholder with a couple of partners. And First Water Ag acquired the technology assets of a company out of Dothan, Alabama, that is involved in precision irrigation application. So the technology that we're working with there has the ability to be installed on a center pivot and apply varying amounts of water to different sections of that pivot as it moves around the field. to your question of growth opportunities, we're certainly looking to grow the original company, but then we are also always looking for other opportunities to continue to be, to fulfill that guiding principle we have, that to be an economic engine in Rollins County, Kansas. And I guess the last thing that we haven't talked about, that I would be remiss not to not just mention but highlight, is that all of these things that we've talked about is only possible because of the entire group of people that have come to be known as the SureFire team, or the SureFire Nation, as we sometimes refer ourselves to. There were certainly those 3 original partners that we talked about, and one original employee that was with us from day one that started to build the foundation. But the number of customers we serve, the geography we cover, the customer service that we provide to our customers, which is our number one differentiating fact in the marketplace, would not be possible if we didn't have an absolutely amazing group of people that, as they've joined the team, have saw the vision of SureFire as their own vision, and work each day diligently in order to fulfill a mission and vision that the entire organization has. Our people are absolutely outstanding. It's a rather common occurrence. Before we talked about, is the rural setting a hindrance or a disadvantage in hiring talent? And we talked about the fact that it isn't. And on regular occasion, we'll have, typically this comment comes from our supplier partners that we're working with that are supplying us product, and they're located all across the country in different areas, wherever they happen to be located. And it's a regular occurrence that those folks will remark about the group of people that we've assembled, and ask questions about, how do you do it? How do you, how did you put together, that caliber and that type of a group? And I wish that we could say that there was a science behind what we had done, but I think the science is that folks grew up in small town America. They learned values and morals and work ethic, and had a desire to return home. And so when you put a group of people that have a similar value structure and philosophy in an organization, that's what you get.